We're joined again today by Justin Breidenbaugh, Assistant Professor of Accounting at Ohio Wesleyan University, and also an expert on the marijuana industry as it applies to accounting. Justin, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
So it's been a few months since we've talked to you on Spotlight. Tell us, what is the latest on the industry in Ohio and also nationally?
Yeah, so nationally it's kind of business as usual is the way I refer to it. There hasn't been a lot of changes. I think a lot of people expected with the Trump administration coming in that there might be some waves that were made, and really it's just kind of in business as usual right now. There hasn't been any new regulations really come up. There hasn't been any changes in scheduling when it comes to marijuana. So I don't foresee much happening right now on that front. There's been some comments behind the scenes with definitely some of the administration players, we'll call it that, within the party that are definitely proponents of medical marijuana and marijuana in general. There's others that are opponents against it. So I think there's definitely that divide right now within the administration. But overall, no big changes. It's just kind of moving along at a snail's pace. There's a lot of risk with this industry, but there's still people that are very interested to enter this industry, be part of this industry. And Ohio is definitely a player in that, and a lot of business leaders in Ohio are going to be players in that. So Ohio right now is a unique state in which we're actually finalizing our medical marijuana regulation. So we kind of had the law that was put in place last year during the summer. We now have the regulations getting put together. And we're actually moving into a period right now where cultivators, so growers of medical marijuana, are actually getting ready to apply for licensing. So that's going to be a very new process for Ohio. It's going to be unique to see how that shakes out, how many people actually apply for licenses. So there's going to be 24 cultivator licenses. And with that, there's going to be a lot of capital that's needed for some of these licenses, not as much capital for the smaller licenses. So that might restrict the numbers, but I definitely think there's a lot of interest there from out-of-state investment, in-state investment to be part of this.
And on that point, let's dive into that a little bit. There are differences between what Ohio has set up here in the past year versus previous states. There's a higher number for entry here in the state.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, so a lot of states have moved into sort of this positioning of requiring a lot of capital to get licensed and also restricting the number of licenses. So it was very unique when Washington and Colorado State started out because it was sort of, I don't want to call it a free-for-all, but almost anybody could sort of apply for a license, and as long as you didn't have, a major felony conviction, you had a little bit of money in your bank account, you could apply for a license and get it. So there was thousands of licenses that were up for grabs. In Ohio, there's only going to be 24 when it comes to cultivators. So, not as many licenses. You look at a state like New York, and there's only 4 that are in the whole state of New York. So a lot of states are now moving to these sort of smaller groupings of licenses, much higher entry in terms of the amount that's required. So, definitely a large bankroll has to be there to get into this industry. So a lot of risk that's there, but also it could be a lot of reward because obviously with, that type of limited supply, you're still going to have a pretty good demand. So there's money to be made.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the numbers in Ohio? What does it cost to get involved?
So with Ohio, you're going to have 12 large licenses and then 12 smaller licenses, which is very unique compared to other states that again have these, large number of licenses that are out there, but the cost to get these licenses is very high compared to other states. So for Ohio, again, we have sort of these big, we have the small. The big licenses are the expensive licenses. So with that, you're going to need $20,000 in an application fee, $180,000 then to pay for the license once you're approved. So $200,000 at that point. And then every year after that, you're going to have a $200,000 license fee to basically renew and keep moving forward. For the smaller ones, it's a little bit lower cost of entry, if you want to look at it that way. So $2,000 for the application fee, and then $18,000 for the licensing fee once approved for the application, in which case then you have $20,000 every year after that for renewal. So definitely a big difference between the two there. Also, there's going to be some escrow requirements you're going to have to put up. So for the larger licenses, if I remember right, I believe it's $1.5 million in escrow. So this isn't something that just anybody that, has a simple 401k sitting around and they want to start their business up and drain their 401k. That's really not what's going to be happening here. You're going to have people that have business experience, have a lot of funding, maybe multiple investors getting into this industry.
What do CPAs need to do now and what sorts of things do they need to be looking for and paying attention to?
Research. I think that's the biggest thing I can tell anybody is really do your research. Dive into this industry. Talk to people in the industry, whether it's from the professional side of things, talk to attorneys that are active in the industry, talk to accountants that are active in the industry, and even go out and talk to cultivators and processors and dispensaries and retail shops in other states. Try to understand this industry from seed to sale at the end of the day. You're going to have a lot of people coming to you from an accountant standpoint, and I can say that for myself that every day is unique. I get a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails from all over the country and even somewhat all over the world now for people that are looking for advice and wanting to figure out, how to really run with the accounting pieces and the back office pieces of the business because they haven't fully thought through that yet. So I think accountants are going to get inundated with that. A lot of times it's going to be maybe a surprise that they're even being asked to think about this. But I think there's going to be some unique opportunities there. So accountants should be ready for that. But do your research so that you're on the forefront versus, all of a sudden trying to figure it out maybe before it's too late.